Hey everyone, before we dive into this story, please hit that subscribe button to join my channel and stay updated with more content like this. I'm Sophia, 28, and my husband recently flung legal documents at me, berating me as useless in front of his whole family. I signed each paper with a calm smile. The following day, his attorney called him in a frenzy, shaken by what he'd done. Let me take you back to how I found myself in this mess. 3 hours earlier, I was in my own living room, surrounded by Ryan's family, feeling like I was on trial. His mother, Catherine, sat opposite me, her immaculate nails clicking against her luxury handbag. His father, Edward, loomed behind the couch, poised like a judge ready to deliver a verdict. His sister, Megan, perched on the armrest beside Ryan, grinning as if she were watching a gripping drama unfold. The papers were spread across my coffee table like a battlefield, each one crafted to funnel every cent of my grandfather's legacy into my husband's hands. Catherine spoke first, her tone laced with fake concern. "This is for everyone's benefit, Sophia. You're clearly not equipped to manage such responsibility. Ryan's business expertise makes him the right person to handle these assets." I glanced at the faces of the family who'd welcomed me warmly 3 years ago. Back then, I felt so lucky to join the prestigious Langley family. Ryan seemed charismatic and accomplished, the embodiment of my dreams. His family exuded elegance and refinement compared to my simple, middle-class roots. How utterly blind I was. "Sign the papers, Sophia," Ryan ordered, his voice icy, unlike anything I'd heard before. "Don't make this a spectacle. It's just money. Just money." To him, $23 million was trivial. This was the fortune my grandfather had spent 70 years amassing, carefully saving and investing to ensure his granddaughter would never face the hardships he endured during the Depression. "Just money? What if I say no?" I asked quietly. That's when Ryan's facade crumbled entirely. He leaned in, his face contorted with a rage I'd only seen in private moments. "Then you'll lose it all anyway. We have lawyers, Sophia. We know about your spending patterns, your dubious financial decisions. We can prove you're unfit to manage this money." I almost laughed. My spending patterns? Driving a 3-year-old Toyota and shopping at thrift stores. My dubious decisions? Donating $50,000 to charity and investing cautiously, just as my grandfather taught me. But Ryan pressed on. "Plus, we know secrets from your past you'd rather keep buried. That college incident no one else knows about." My heart stopped. He meant the night I was assaulted at a frat party in my junior year. The night I reported it to campus police and was dismissed. The night that nearly broke me until I found the strength to heal. Ryan knew because I'd shared that pain with him in a vulnerable moment early in our marriage. Now he was wielding my trauma as a weapon. "You wouldn't dare," I whispered. Catherine's smile was icy. "Family looks out for family, dear. You're either with us or against us." That's when it hit me. This wasn't about money. It was about dominance and control. They wanted to strip me bare, leaving me dependent on their whims. I picked up the pen, my hand steady despite everything. "Where do I sign?" Ryan's smug look turned my stomach. He pointed to each line, explaining what I was giving up as if he were doing me a kindness. His family watched with smug satisfaction as I signed away what they thought was my security, my independence, my future. "There," I said, setting the pen down. "Happy now?" "Completely," Megan murmured, already tallying her cut. They left shortly after, barely hiding their glee. Ryan kissed my forehead as if nothing had changed. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. You'll see." After they were gone, I sat in silence, staring at the signed papers. For a moment, I felt utterly empty, as if they'd taken everything that mattered. Then Ryan's phone rang. I overheard him in the driveway, his voice brimming with triumph at first, but it quickly shifted to panic. "What do you mean? What clauses? What are you talking about?" That's when I smiled for the first time in hours. The real story began 2 years earlier, when I still believed in fairy tale romances. I met Ryan Langley at a children's literacy fundraiser where I was volunteering as an event planner. He was there representing his family's investment firm, looking dashing in a tailored tuxedo. "You're the one who put together this amazing event," he said, approaching me during cocktail hour. His smile felt warm, sincere, everything I'd ever hoped for. I'm Ryan Langley. This is incredible work. I was 26, working at a small nonprofit, living in a tiny apartment, and driving a car that groaned embarrassingly. Ryan, at 30, was polished, successful, everything I wasn't. When he asked for my number, I thought it was a prank, but he called the next day and every day for 2 weeks until I agreed to dinner. Our first date was at a sophisticated restaurant where the staff knew Ryan by name. He was charming, witty, genuinely curious about my work despite its meager pay. I admire people who devote their lives to helping others, he said over dessert. It shows true character. 3 months later, he took me to meet his family. The Langley estate sprawled across 5 acres in an elite neighborhood, a grand colonial with pristine gardens and a circular drive. I felt like I'd stepped into a dream. Catherine Langley greeted us in a cream cashmere sweater that likely cost more than my monthly rent. Her embrace was brief but seemed warm. "So, you're the woman who's won Ryan's heart," she said, ushering us into a living room that could have been a museum. "He's told us about your charitable work." Edward Langley was equally striking, tall and distinguished with silver hair and a strong handshake. The conversation flowed smoothly, covering news and culture. I felt embraced, like I belonged. Sophia's grandfather owned several downtown properties, Ryan mentioned over dinner, and I caught a glint in Catherine's eyes. Calculation. What I didn't know was that Edward had been digging into my family's finances for months, hiring a private investigator after Ryan first mentioned my grandfather's construction business. The investigator uncovered records showing Grandpa Henry owned more real estate than anyone suspected, plus had made remarkably savvy stock investments over decades. "Commercial real estate can be quite profitable," Edward remarked during dinner. "Your grandfather sounds like a sharp businessman." 6 months later, Ryan proposed with a ring that likely cost more than I earned in a year. The wedding was lavish, the kind featured in glossy magazines, with 300 guests and a reception at the Langley estate. My mother wept with joy, believing I'd found stability and love. I believed it too. For the first year, our marriage felt like a dream. Ryan was affectionate, thoughtful, always surprising me with sweet gestures. His family welcomed me into their elite social circle, introducing me to powerful people. I felt like a princess, but cracks began to appear. Ryan started questioning my spending, even on essentials. He suggested I quit my nonprofit job, since his income was enough. When I pushed back, he acted wounded, saying I didn't trust him to provide. Then Grandpa Henry fell ill. I flew home immediately, spending 2 weeks at his bedside as he faded. The morning he passed, he gripped my hand and whispered something strange. "I've kept you safe, Sophia. Always remember that." After the funeral, his lawyer, Mr. Thompson, called me for a private meeting. He handed me a sealed envelope. "Your grandfather insisted I give this to you personally after he was gone." Inside was a letter in Grandpa's familiar handwriting, explaining everything. He'd learned of the Langley family's history of marrying wealth and seizing control of their spouse's assets through his business connections. So he'd restructured his entire estate with safeguards I never could have imagined. The inheritance was mine, but with ironclad clauses preventing anyone, including a spouse, from accessing it without my explicit, documented consent. Any attempt to coerce or manipulate me would trigger severe legal consequences, including criminal fraud charges. There were other protections too, anticipating scenarios with eerie precision. If anyone tried to use personal information against me for financial gain, additional safeguards kicked in. If I signed documents under duress, they'd be void within 72 hours if I contacted Mr. Thompson's firm. Grandpa had built a legal fortress around his legacy, simple on the surface but unbreakable beneath. Mr. Thompson explained it all carefully. "Your grandfather was a brilliant man, Sophia. He knew exactly what he was doing. These protections are airtight. No one can touch this inheritance without your genuine, uncoerced consent." I returned home in a daze, seeing my marriage in a new light. Small moments I'd ignored now felt significant. Ryan's early curiosity about my family's finances, his family's probing questions about Grandpa's properties, the subtle push to merge our finances completely. Over the next few months, the pressure grew. Ryan suggested transferring everything into joint accounts for tax benefits. Edward offered to manage my portfolio for better returns. Catherine pushed for estate planning that would benefit the whole family. I sidestepped each request, saying I needed time to grieve before major decisions. Ryan's patience wore thin. His warmth turned to irritation. He began criticizing my appearance, my intelligence. His family stopped inviting me to events unless Ryan insisted. Then came that Sunday when they made their move, believing they'd trapped me. What Ryan didn't know as he yelled at his lawyer in the driveway was that I'd called Mr. Thompson before signing anything. He'd recorded everything through my phone, capturing the threats, the coercion, the manipulation. Every word Ryan and his family spoke was evidence. The documents I signed were void before the ink dried. Within 24 hours, Mr. Thompson filed criminal fraud charges against Ryan and his family. The evidence was damning, their own words convicting them. They'd broken multiple laws trying to steal my inheritance. The legal process moved swiftly. The Langleys hired top-tier lawyers, but Grandpa's protections were unassailable. Their pattern of targeting wealthy spouses became public, revealing I wasn't their first mark, just the first protected enough to fight back. Ryan tried reaching out, calling, texting, even showing up at the house. I refused to engage, letting Mr. Thompson handle everything. The man I'd married was a mirage, crafted to access my grandfather's fortune. At trial, evidence showed Ryan had researched my family's wealth before we even met. Our meeting at the charity event wasn't chance. He'd planned it after targeting me. Every romantic gesture, every loving word, every cherished moment was a calculated lie. The jury deliberated for under 3 hours. Ryan got 5 years for attempted fraud and coercion. Edward received 7 for masterminding the scheme. Catherine got 3 for conspiracy. Megan was given probation for her minor role. I sat in the courtroom as the verdicts were read, feeling only exhaustion. These people had stolen 3 years of my life, made me question my judgment, weaponized my pain, but they hadn't broken me. Grandpa Henry ensured that. After the trial, I sold the house I'd shared with Ryan and moved into a simple downtown apartment. I craved simplicity, a space to heal and rediscover myself without someone trying to control me. I poured myself into my nonprofit work, finding purpose in helping others. That's where I met James Carter, a financial counselor who volunteered teaching budgeting classes. He was kind, authentic, with warm eyes and a gentle laugh. We started as friends, then gradually became more. I told James everything before we dated. The betrayal, the trial, my struggle to trust. He listened without judgment, never pushing, always respecting my boundaries. Our relationship grew organically, rooted in honesty and respect, not manipulation. 2 years after the trial, I used part of my inheritance to start a foundation helping women escape financial abuse in relationships. We provided legal support, financial education, and support groups. The response was staggering. Countless women shared stories of partners isolating them financially, using money to control them, or pressuring them to surrender assets. One day, James found me crying in my office after a tough counseling session. A young woman's story about her husband's tactics echoed Ryan's, exactly. I feel like I should have seen it coming, I told James, feeling foolish for trusting Ryan. You weren't foolish, he said softly. You were trusting, and he exploited that. Those are different. That compassion showed me what true partnership meant. Someone who lifted me up, not tore me down, who valued my strength instead of trying to diminish it. 5 years after signing those papers, I stood at our foundation's newest location, watching women learn to protect themselves from manipulation. The program had grown to 12 cities, serving thousands, partnering with law schools and financial institutions. James proposed with a simple, self-designed ring, nothing like the gaudy diamond from Ryan's family. When he asked me to marry him, he also suggested a prenup. Not because I doubt you, he said, but because I want you to always feel secure in your independence. I said yes to both, finally understanding that true love protects, not possesses. Our small wedding was filled with people who genuinely cared about us, not what we represented. At the altar with James, I reflected on the journey that brought me here. The betrayal that nearly shattered me had revealed my resilience. The people who tried to exploit me taught me to value authenticity over appearances. Above all, I learned my worth wasn't tied to what others could take from me, but to what I chose to create with the gifts I'd been given. Years later, I gave an interview for a documentary on financial abuse in relationships. They wanted my story as an example of someone who fought back. What would you tell someone in a similar situation? The interviewer asked. Trust your gut, I said firmly. When people you trust make you question your own judgment, that's a red flag. When financial decisions become about power instead of partnership, that's abuse. What about forgiveness? They asked. I thought of Ryan's family in their prison uniforms, the wasted potential their greed caused. Forgiveness is a journey, not a moment, I said. I don't carry anger anymore, but I don't pretend their actions were okay. Some choices have consequences apologies can't erase. Any final advice? Your worth isn't what others can take from you. It's what you choose to build with what you've been given. Driving home that evening, I reflected on how much had changed since that awful Sunday. At 35, I was stronger, wiser, more cautious with my trust, but more open with my love for those who'd earned it. The inheritance Grandpa Henry left wasn't just money. It was a foundation for a life built on my values, my choices, my definition of success. James found me in the kitchen, wrapping his arms around me. Good day, he asked. Perfect day, I replied, watching our daughter play outside. The foundation board wants to go international. What do you think? I think your grandfather would be proud of what you've created. I thought of Grandpa Henry, his foresight in shielding me from dangers I couldn't have foreseen, his belief in my ability to use his gift wisely. He gave me more than money, I said softly. He gave me tools to protect myself and help others do the same. That evening, as our daughter slept, James and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. My phone pinged with a photo of a bright-eyed girl with a backpack, beaming at the camera. The next generation of strong women, James said. She'll never have to doubt her worth. I nodded. That's everything. The inheritance my grandfather left wasn't just money. It was a foundation for a life shaped by my own values and choices. It was the knowledge that my worth comes from within, not from what others think I can offer. That inheritance is worth more than $23 million. It's worth everything. Some betrayals break us. Others reveal strengths we didn't know we had. The difference lies in how we respond when we see people's true colors. I chose to build something better from the ruins of what they tried to destroy. And that choice changed everything.